Well, as we say that you don't attain nirvana in one stretch. You try, and you try. So we breathe until we can breathe, until the body can function. Okay, so it is a kind of looking for something that you know about, but you don't know. See, it's like if I started doing the film with a very well-written script, it will be different because already the film is on the paper, and then I am trying to find the equivalent on the film. Here I have a notion, because this notion of looking for elements came up by chance, because once in '76 I met with an accident and I was taken to the hospital in an unconscious state. And when the doctor was doing some little stitching, I felt the pain, and then I cried. Oh, he said, "Oh, you are alive. Who are you? Where are you from?" And so I'm an Indian, but if I say I am, what does that mean? India is so vast, and the culture is very complex. So which Indian I am, or what does it mean to be an Indian? So this question resounded in the bed when I was back in the hospital bed. So I asked myself, who am I? Where am I from? So that is where the first idea of traveling to India and kind of making a geographical kind of thing. So I said, I looked at India from the, in the mind. So there is a piece of earth projected to the sea. So I said I will follow the seashore, and it so happens that many points on the seashore, cities, and they are all either mythologically important, or culturally important, or historically important. So I said that's one way to discover India. So, and people in different places speak different languages. They don't look exactly the same, but they have something in common, etc. So when I did this first trip, I had only the idea of doing this trip and registering the where I take the sand, because I wanted to have some testimony of the travel. So I collected sand from different places like Dwaraka, Porbandar, Somnath, like that. So I had my friend Adur Gopalakrishnan to film, and this was the film done in Super 8, because at that time Super 8 was coming in, and I remembered that Orson Welles, Godard, and people like that talking that now you can make your films very inexpensive. So that's how I went with the Super 8 camera and a lot of stock. And I did this trip, came back. I was editing the film, and then a friend who watched it, he said, "Oh, you're working on elements." And then I said, "Oh, elements, because if the sand is earth, now the next element is water, and then fire, air, and ether, because that is the Indian belief that earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Ether is the what we call the Atma, or the spirit, or which makes the life possible." So I did the 5 films. It took about 25 years, and then after few years, somebody asked, "What is your film now?" I was doing some small things, filming my dancer friends and etc. etc. Then I said, next is return to elements, to go back to the elements, because many trips in between to India, I watched that there was this change of landscape. Everything is getting changed, and the what do you call the globalization is embracing India also, and so the landscape changes, the life changes. There are more roads, because when we first went, practically there were no roads. Some places there were, but many places there were no roads. There was only the idea of the road. So these changes, I thought it's interesting to observe. So I went to do this film, and this was very lucky, because first film I started with Super 8, and then when people saw the film was interesting, they said, "Why don't you do in 16 at least?" So it was, the other 4 films were on 16, and then came the technical facilities, and so this time I went with the EX1 HD cam, something like that. And so it was very interesting, because there was nothing to carry except the camera and some memory sticks, and so each day we could see what we shot, and if we could, because from the memory stick we could transfer to a hard disk, etc. And but then the amazing thing was the sound, because India is, there is no space where there is no sound, and the sound is very present. And what kind of sound? All kind of sounds. It's the air full, filled with, the wind, the birds, and the other things, and then the motor cars and everything. So I thought that's very interesting. So I said I should see, first cut the film and see how it works. So I told the editor, "Don't touch the sound. We keep it as it is." And so there was a sound editor. When she saw the thing, she said, "My God, I have nothing to do." Same thing with the man who was mixing the sound, who mixed my other films. For example, the water film, practically we had no sound, direct sound, because everything was just the images were there. But this man was so fascinated, and he took so much pain and pleasure in making sound for every little things, even the little drops of water, or little, brushing like that, etc. So that sound is fantastic. And but when I came with this film, he said, "What can I do? there is nothing to it. It's so beautiful. Keep it as it is. So the images and the sound, we had very little work to do. Because, I mean, we didn't have any work to do. We just cut the shots and then, the usual little touches of what do you call the grading, etc. And so the film is when the Arte, who was partially supporting the film, when they saw the things, you will see the images, which are so long, and shots which are very, very long, but there is nothing to do, and I didn't want to touch it because this is my approach, to just to see, not to interpret it, but to see what is happening. So no commentary, but because the image speaks.